What is up out there, people? Hello, planet Earth. Happy Friday. We made it to the kids' last day of school. Thank the great good Lord. You guys know what that means. It means they're leaving for sleepaway camp very, very shortly. Anyway, today it's Friday, and it's always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. ICYMI, or in case you missed it, SMB stands for Small and Medium-Sized Business. For the last 20 years, I've been a consultant for SMBs, a voice and a sounding board for our business leaders, educating, advocating on their behalf, their employees as well. I believe very, very strongly, everybody, in sharing stories, providing perspective, and creating connection. That's what I'm all about. So every single Friday, you could find me right here on talkradio.nyc doing just that, lending what's left of my mind and my voice to this radio show, where I interview business leaders as well as their trusted advisors. One thing that I've noticed rather consistently over the years, folks, is that some of our best thought leadership for SMBs, it actually happens on Friday, just about the time where we feel that freedom of the weekend coming. However, we're also anxious to start the weekend. These crucial pearls of wisdom, they're often overlooked, they're eased aside, they're swept under the rug in favor of our fun activities and our freedom from the office. Here on the show, we take advantage of that weekend freedom and clarity, and we like to discuss popular topics that are on the minds of the business leaders, as well as the folks who guide them in the right direction, their trusted advisors. That's what we're all about. Once again, the name of the show, not just to play on words. My last name means free in German. There is method behind the madness here, people. It is boiling hot outside in the Northeast in New Jersey, where I'm located right now. I wanted to give a quick shout out to a buddy of mine and former guest, Uncle Mike Lazeski, the founder of Uncle Mike's Home Service. Guarantee you, with everybody's HVAC systems breaking down, he's busy as hell right now, without a doubt. But like I said, we've reached the last day of school. The kids, it was hard getting them out of bed this morning. They're staying up later. They're already in summer mode, but we made it. We're at the last day. Pictures from the bus stop, beautiful, signs were made, but most importantly, they are heading out to camp on Sunday for 48 straight days of being a kid. No screens, no phones, no iPads. Beautiful for them and beautiful for mom and dad. Can't wait. This week we celebrated Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. I'm kind of surprised at how many people are still asking, what is this all about? What is Juneteenth? Like, you guys know Google, right? I mean, if you really have that many questions, you throw it into Google, you get the answer in 2 seconds. It's when a Union general entered Galveston, Texas, June 19th, 1865, and announced that slavery was abolished. It's over, right? So it's time to celebrate freedom. Awesome time of the year to celebrate freedom, especially for me with the kids leaving on Sunday. Although I don't have the same analogy. I don't know. Actually, I'm a Jewish guy, so my people were slaves. What was it? Thousands of years ago, right? And nowadays, the thing that I'm a biggest slave to is my kids' schedule. But guess what? Beginning on Sunday, 48 days straight, don't have to taxi them anywhere. Very excited about that. You know, a lot of times when we're talking with our small, medium-sized business owners over the last 20 years, where I consult with the folks who I've consulted with, they can't seem to get out of their own way. Sometimes the business owner and the leadership, they can be their own worst enemy, right? They need to grow, they need to develop, they get all wrapped up in what they do day to day, especially when they end up working in the business and not on the business as a founder of a company. This has prompted the need, want, and wish list for a lot of business leaders to really engage with a business coach. So today we're going to talk a little bit about going further with business coaching. So when we talk on talkradio.nyc, I've said this a bunch of times over the last couple of weeks, we're all about uplift, educate, and empower, right? So we do a lot of education. We try to keep things in a positive light. I always say things like, if I'm not having fun, I'm not making money. Very important, right? But sometimes some people are very open to it. Some people are completely closed-minded to it. They think they know what they're doing. They're the ones who founded the company. You're never going to be able to teach them any different. But more and more, I've been seeing a turn of the tide last 5 to 10 years, especially with people really being open to the idea of learning something new every day. And not only that, getting the impartial perspective of somebody who's not as close to the idea as they are, right? And that's very important when you're talking about your business and getting the proper coaching for it, because the closer you are to something, the harder it can be to explain it to other people, pure and simple. You need somebody to come in and really take a look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, how it's affecting you, how it's affecting the people who work for you. It's like you want to create the right environment. If you can't tell a consistent story inside, you're always going to have challenges telling a consistent story outside, right? So talk is cheap. We're here on talkradio.nyc. We don't want this to just be talk. Once again, the goal here is let's use the insight that we get on the business landscape and create some impact on Monday morning. That's the idea. That was the idea 4 years ago when I drew this goofy logo for my new show, right? From Weekend Insight to Monday Impact, right? It's too often that when I meet with my business owners, they're fixated and focused on some type of product, some shiny new mousetrap, some magic wand that's going to just be waved and absolve them of all their problems, worries, issues, and then everything's just going to be a success and money hand over fist after that. It does not work that way. As my special guest will agree, he's got some great content about this. There's no substitute for surrounding yourself with the right people first. These products, they change every single day in everything that we do, personal and business. You have the right people around you. They have a good process. They talk about the process with you. You can execute it together. And then you'll find the right products when you need them. So I know I have the right people around me today. Very new friend of mine. He was introduced to me by former guest, 2 times actually, my buddy and accountant, Jordan Krant. So I want you guys to meet my new friend. This is Laurence Anthony. He's the founder of GoFurther Coaching. And I know he's got 2 first names. Don't worry, he's cool as hell. You can trust this guy. I know some people don't trust guys with 2 first names. I don't trust guys that have the same first name as a city, especially if I'm playing cards with them. Laurence is a one of one, a published writer, a former actor, an award-winning restaurant director, a soul cycle enthusiast, and entrepreneur. As the founder of GoFurther Coaching, Laurence is a coach, consultant, storyteller, problem solver, and listener. Probably one of the most important skills that people tend to forget about these days. Over his decade-plus career in consulting, entertainment, and coaching, Laurence partners with successful leaders, executives, brands, performers, athletes, and entrepreneurs to guide them in becoming the best versions of themselves. As an award-winning coach, strategist, and entertainer, Laurence has worked with numerous Fortune 100 companies and coached individuals and teams to perform at their absolute peak. Love it. Laurence launched GoFurther Coaching with a singular goal: to leave the world better by helping clients embrace their passion and purpose to create change. Dude, what a kindred spirit. I love this guy. You guys are going to love him too. With a diverse roster of clients that are some of the leading forces in their industries and titans of success, one common thread is they all trust Laurence to get them to the next level they desire and tap into who they really are. I have news for you guys. Some people are still figuring that out. It was my 44th birthday this week. I'm still figuring it out. I have a much better hold on it now, but still figuring it out every day. Laurence unlocks the greatness within each of his clients to help the entire team go further. Awesome meeting him. Awesome getting to know him. Looking like an absolute rock star this morning. And in every headshot, you're going to see that I flash up on the screen. Laurence, welcome to Always Friday, brother. Great to have you here. Don't forget, you do have to come off mute before you talk. I should have mentioned that. Sorry.
Well, here we go. See, there's mute on the microphone, and then there's mute on the Zoom, right? So we're double muted.
Double muted,
absolute pleasure.
Trust me, man. I can't be silenced. Everybody has tried. So, Laurence,
no one is silencing our communities. We've found too much. So yes,
Laurence, this is probably the first time, and maybe the second or third time actually, in the last 4 years where I talked to you a couple of weeks ago. I like instantly was like, dude, I got to interview this guy on my show. And I've been busy as hell trying to get these kids out of here. And I kept trying to meet up with you little times that didn't work out over the last couple of days, but you're a consummate professional. You're awesome at this. I've seen your content out there. You got tons of it. And by the way, thank you for having so much awesome content posted out there. It just makes my life that much easier. I'd like you to share with everybody the little bit of the founder's journey. Talk to everyone about how you got where you are today.
It's a great question. First of all, I appreciate you making the time. I appreciate having me on. I know you could have a world of people on with you, so it means a lot. Thank you for making the time. And
Absolutely.
You're right. We met just under a month ago, and we immediately hit it off. And there are kindred spirits, and we definitely felt it. So I really appreciate it. The journey. It's interesting. It's such a great question because we all have one.
Yeah.
Right. We all have a journey, and we all have. I like to call it books, right? And we're all writing a book. I like to.
Mine might be an encyclopedia volume if you remember the damn.
I do. I remember going down to my grandfather's basement and actually studying the encyclopedia. One of my nicknames was Webster. Right.
Love it.
But for me, the journey has been um, trying to find and remember who I am. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons when I built this business, one of the pillars was remember who you are. It was the first one. And I
Yeah.
think oftentimes we forget who we are. I genuinely believe we all know it to some extent, but things happen in the course of our lives. We run into obstacles, challenges, whatever the case is, and then we tend to forget. I know it's going to make a lot of people laugh. The Lion King is how I base the business on. Simba is out in the forest. He's hanging out with Timon and Pumbaa. He's Hakuna Matataing all day. And eventually they come to him and they say, you gotta remember who you are. His father says, remember who you are. And it's only then when he remembers that he has a responsibility. That is my journey. I've always known as a young kid that I really wanted to help people. My mother told me that when I was in kindergarten. She said, you should be a therapist, or there wasn't coaches back then. But she
Right.
knew that I wanted to help people, something that I always wanted to do.
And man, definitely not wrong. I gotta draw some attention to a couple of your quotes while we're chatting today. Some of them look like they could be yours. Some of them I've definitely heard before, but hell, I'll give you credit for it today. What do I care? But this one is a fun one to me, and I've heard it plenty over the last couple of years. Ideation without execution is just hallucination. And this is a good like kind of catalyst to get us moving here today, because lots of these business owners, they have great ideas, and they got some of the first couple of ideas that they had into action somehow, and that's just how they've based their entire business model, but they haven't necessarily been able to execute on some of the next steps, like the secondary, tertiary steps. And having a coach that could really give you that kind of impartial viewpoint, like an outsider looking in and being by your side, and not as, maybe a little bit divorced from the concept, they can really help give you the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on how to execute what you're trying to do. And I think that the people who haven't kind of bought into the concept yet, they really need to understand that.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad you said that. And you know what? So I do love this quote, not mine. Most of the quotes that I do throw up are mine. This is one that I'm not going to take credit for.
I
But
like to
here's
throw up
one.
quotes too, so you're perfect with me.
Love it. Here's one that I will. So ideation without execution is just hallucination. I love that. You said something there, is that a lot of business founders, a lot of individuals, all folks have the concept, have the strategy, but they don't necessarily have the execution, right? What I like to do is I like to place things into and people into, are you a Kirk or are you a Spock? I'm very much a Kirk, right? And so for all you Trekkies out there, I'm not quite a Trekkie, but I know I'm ingratiating myself with you right now. But I'll ask that. Are you a Kirk or are you Spock?
There's going to be
Once
definitely a
you
William Shatner imitation somewhere in here. I can feel it already.
listen, he's a fellow Canadian. You know it's got to happen. Right?
Yeah, I know. That's right.
But once you know that, you're then able to understand, okay, how do I move in business? I'm very much a Kirk. So what do I mean by that when we talk about Kirks and Spocks? Right? When you think about Captain Kirk, what are his attributes? He's bold. He's courageous. He's an adventurer. He is somewhat reckless. He's a risk taker, right? He's quick on his feet. And no matter what happens, he's almost always going to land on his feet. It's a great trait. What is a Spock? Right? I identify Spocks as logic. They're very linear, right? They think strategy, mathematics, everything can be counted and quantified, right? Now, why do you need both of those? Well, you'll tend to find with a lot of founders, right, myself included, is that we're Kirks, right? We have the idea, we have the concept, and we are the dreamers. I often say I'm the person who will say, let's get to the moon, and I'm gonna get us there. However, the Spocks are the ones who are going to say, I'm going to make sure that there's fuel in the engine. I'm going to make sure that the rockets are ready, right?
Yep.
It means nothing to have the
Yep.
goal and the dream to get there if you don't actually implement it.
100%. That might actually have to become a question of mine for the future. Are you a Kirk or are you a Spock? Don't worry, I'll give you credit for it every
As long as you
time.
give me credit, I want all the credit. I want all the credit.
Before Logan the engineer kills us, I don't know if you've been reading the chats, Logan the engineer is by far the most engaged engineer I've ever had. When we were talking about you can't silence me, he said, honestly, we need a triple mute to keep Steven down. Mute the Zoom, mute the mic, and duct tape his mouth. That might still not do it. I'll eat the duct tape. I'm starving right now. But we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Laurence Anthony. Once again, he's the founder of GoFurther Coaching. People, stay with us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday. It's always Friday. It's almost time for my kids to leave for camp, thank God. And it's me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with my new friend, feels like a brother from another mother very quickly, Laurence Anthony. He's the founder of GoFurther Coaching. Laurence, before we kick off what I like to refer to as the method segment, the science behind what you do, I like to sit out by my fire pit for a moment and just kind of kick off everything with a little bit of perspective, right? So there's a quick picture of my fire pit. It's one of the prettier ones that I've taken along the way. I got my goofball of a dog in the background. This is something that I just asked you in the chat because I didn't have time to ask you, and it's been intriguing me ever since I started checking out your website. I'm a people first guy. I'm a relationship guy. And if we start reading a bunch of your testimonials, which we're going to do at some point, because to me, it gives all the meat and potatoes of why someone needs a business coach and why they in particular need you as their business coach to really kick them off their butts and into action. But yeah, this can be a tough topic for some people to wrestle with. Like, the world in general needs better coaching. Like I spent a lot of time in the last couple months coaching my daughter's softball team, coaching my daughter's basketball team, which I got to show you that episode. Coach Keith Drysdale, shout out to Coach Keith at Count the Bucket. We did a great show together. And then my daughter's last basketball game was like the next weekend. He came down and hung out and did like a quick 30-minute shooting drill with everybody. It was awesome. But going back to the personal side of things, every guest I've ever interviewed, at least the first time I've interviewed them, because I've had some repeat offenders on the show, I asked them 3.5 questions, and I asked you the same ones related to movies, TV, and music. I asked them, who's your favorite movie or TV show character? What's your favorite movie or TV show? And what's your favorite musical instrument? And who's the artist you'd like to hear play it? One of the main reasons I do that is to get a little bit more of a personal picture and like something that's not business related with them. And for all intents and purposes, I have been communicating with my brother Brian over the last 40 years in almost exclusively movie quotes. So it's something that connects us and a bunch of my friends on a different level than any of the conversations I have out there in the field. So I like to bring some of that fun here. I was shocked to find, well, we're going to save that for the end, but I promise you, we will get there. Don't worry, we're going to get there. But when I saw on your website that you describe your team members and yourself, you have that, you got to tell me and the audience why you have that on there, why it's something that's kind of cool for you and why you share that information too.
It's a great question. You know, there's a big history with that. And it's funny, I haven't thought about this in a while. So you're getting me somewhat nostalgic and emotional here.
I'm
But
really good
I
at that.
grew,
We warn you.
I grew up watching. We grew up, my brother and I, and then my sister came later. So the three of us grew up watching films with our mom. And so movies were a big part of our lives, right? And I credit my mom for introducing me to film, old black and white films, to modern. You know, she had a huge VHS library, and she was part of a subscription service, so she would get all these movies, right? You remember those
Damn
old
Columbia House.
Columbia House, right? Those old subscription services. And so I grew up just watching a lot of films with mom, and it was a great way for us to connect. And I remember reading my first script. The first script that I read was Cameron Crowe's Jerry Maguire, and I remember just thinking, "What a phenomenal script!" And it is so phenomenal script.
Phenomenal, yeah.
And I just said, "Well, I love writing, and that's how I got into writing. But I love film, and this is the underbelly. Is how the film starts. This is the foundation." And so for me, it started with my mom, and then as I went through life, it was an easy way for me to relate to individuals because I think we all can relate to storytelling. Whether it's
Yes,
a book,
thank you,
whether it's a
God.
comic book, whether it's a film, it is the way that we communicate. You think about people who've gone through struggles, gone through intense pain. They've communicated through stories to pass that down. That
Yes.
means continuing either your religion or your culture, race, whatever the case is. Storytelling is a great way for us to connect with someone else. And that's why we have it on the site, is because one, I think it should be playful, right? Anyone who knows me, I'm playful, right?
Dude, this picture says it all to me. Like, I always say things like, if I'm not having fun, I'm not making money. Who doesn't want a business coach that's laughing this hard in their corner?
We should. And it's one of my favorite things is when either in person or on a call, my clients are laughing. I want to laugh. And I kind of describe myself a little bit like, Ted Lasso. There's maybe some Patch Adams in there as well. It should be fun. It should be fun. So that's why the quotes are on the page, is because I want people to be able to relate to us. I want people to be able to say, "Oh wow, these guys are fun. These women are fun," and I think it's a good way to relate, to teach a lesson through a story, but also to have a lot of fun.
So in addition to the personal fun aspect and having a blast with the conversation, the same way my brother and I laugh at each other when we talk, I also do superimpose the guest face onto all the answers and share them with everybody at the end of the show. So there's a sneak peek for you. That's what you look like as Ted Lasso. Back to business here.
And you know what? I'll be remiss if I didn't mention this. My brother and I, years ago during the pandemic, and this is where things really kind of put me in a direction, and it's made its way to be a big part of my practice.
Mhm.
My brother and I started and launched a podcast called "I Love That Line," right? And we did it during the pandemic, and we would break down our favorite lines in movies every week. And I mean, some of these episodes, some were 30, some were like an hour and 10 minutes.
I feel like that could be like an entire weekend if we did it right.
Easily. And it really resonated with a lot of people, and it meant a lot. And it was a great way for my brother and I to connect, just like you and your brother Brian, right?
Yeah, my brother Brian,
You and Brian connect. And the highlight for me was getting our mom on an episode, and we did a two-parter with her. We did an episode, and the movie was Waiting to Exhale. And what ended up being, hey, let's have mom on and talk about a big line, it ended up being a bit of a therapy session for the three of us, and we were able to talk about things that we never talked about before. That's why I believe in movie quotes. That's why I believe in storytelling, is because in the fun, the Trojan horse is revealing more about yourself.
There's a Native American proverb that I share with people very often that says, "Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me a truth and I'll believe. Tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." So I wholeheartedly share the sentiments. While we have a couple minutes left in the method segment, Mr. Laurence, I like the thought of calling you LA, because that's where I was born too. So
LA's great. LA works. So a lot of my clients and friends call me LA. LA's great.
So this is an industry that has a lot of cool method behind it and a serious amount of madness behind it, which we'll get into as well. But this little quote that's up here, right? Incremental steps lead to exponential results. This is really important to me and the whole coaching concept in general in my mind, because everybody wants perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. My mom is what you would refer to as a neurotic perfectionist. She's typical neurotic Jewish mother,
I was
but
gonna say you're just Jewish mother.
you're welcome. I'm right there with you, baby. She's 70 years old, and she's put off certain things her whole life because she's afraid of the fact that she won't be able to make it perfect. And that's a lot of times what I mean by we can't get out of our own way, and we're our own worst enemies. So once again, I appreciate you having on the website exactly what you do. So talk to us a little bit in the brief method time we have left, Laurence, of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and really how you're going to market for it. There's a lot of coaches out there. You are a standout performance in the short time that I've known you. So let's lay it on everybody. How you going to market? How you doing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from a method standpoint, right, I see these quotes here, and these are mine. So
You're welcome.
I'm very, very proud to see my work.
I'll give you a quarter every time I use it. Don't worry.
Thank you very much. From a method standpoint, I like to break down the business, and the business has grown. I launched last year, and it has evolved into what it is now. I launched last year doing B2C coaching and B2B coaching. So one-on-one coaching with individuals, executives, performers, artists, CEOs, across the board, right? And as business went on, I said, okay, I want to make sure I'm in the right room. I always knew that I wanted to be in the room with big businesses and individuals, and very, very grateful. We signed United Airlines this year, which was a big get, to be the official coach for a team at United Airlines. It's a big deal for us. But for me, we do B2B coaching. So B2B coaching would be the work that we do with United Airlines, with car companies or with particular brands, where we go in and we can train their teams or sales teams or leaders or executives, basically make sure everyone's aligned and get the company from where it is to where they want to be, make sure that vision is enacted, right? Or whatever the goal is. That's the B2B.
This quote that you have up there, and I love the B2B world, man. Listen, we're all people first. I'm the biggest proponent of that. But, especially when you're getting to know these businesses are comprised of people. So it's like, I always use this example. It's like you line up 10 different plumbers or electricians and you ask, what do they do? You're going to get a relatively similar story. But if you ask the founder's journey, like I did to you in the first segment, and you ask them kind of some stories from the field, which we're going to get into in the next segment, you start getting everybody's kind of personal take on everything. You start to hear 10 very different stories, and each of them might make a different impact on you. And that's awesome. That's where the magic is. That's the Trojan horse, as you said.
You got it.
So this quote that you have up here, I wanted to draw some special attention, especially with Logan the engineer in mind. So your identity doesn't define your integrity. Your integrity defines your identity. Not only do I love this quote, I thought of Logan the engineer, and I don't know if you saw this in the notes. Again, Laurence, Logan the engineer, by far the most engaged, fun, dropping quips in the chat type of dude. He put in there, he said, listen, I'm a DID system. I can barely remember who I am on a daily basis. I don't know if you know about DID. And if I screw this up, Logan, you'll correct me later, but I think it's dissociative identity disorder. And when Logan first told me about it, it was the first time I'd heard of it, but I was immediately able to identify with it. And I was like, damn, do I have the same disorder? And what I noticed is something that we're going to get into in the next segment as we talk about the madness that surrounds your world. Is I'm a big superpowers guy. The Boys just came back on Amazon. Yep, Amazon original. I'm a big Boys fan.
Season 4.
Yeah, I'm big into superpowers, man. I ask a lot of people these days, like, oh, do you watch movie shows with superpowers? Like, I do. I love it. I think it's cool. Even if it's a fantasy world, it's like a fun fantasy world. Sometimes it's a totally terrifying fantasy world, like episodes of The Boys. But I've always considered myself to be empathetic, especially when I'm doing some consultative work with my clients and prospects and all of that. And I know you, to a certain degree, embody that as well, Laurence, right? Being an empath is a superpower. So, for Logan the engineer, not only do I stand by this quote, and you might have, some type of condition that warrants some special attention and everything, but man, to me, you have a superpower. You have empath superpower, like the same way I do. I like to think of myself in different contexts. I like a lot of movies and TV shows and things like that. I love musicians. I'll often think of myself as all of those types of folks and trying to embody the things that they do. But yeah, it's in a lot of ways, Logan the engineer, that could be a superpower. And some folks who are business owners and leaders, same kind of thing. They might be lacking that empathy to really identify with the people around them, and they might just be lacking the superpower of understanding things through other people's eyes. They might get really tunnel visioned about it, and a lot of times that prevents growth from happening. You get a business coach in the saddle, you get a Laurence Anthony by your side, you were able to overcome a lot of those obstacles, and there lies a lot of opportunity. We need to take a break. We'll be right back with LA, Laurence Anthony. He's the founder of GoFurther Coaching. People, stay with us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. It is not just me. It is me with my new friend, Laurence Anthony. He is the founder of GoFurther Coaching. Laurence, I love acronyms. I love any sort of mnemonic device that really helps folks remember things and kind of keep it closer to their hearts and everything. And I our text back and forth, going back and forth with you, I was like, wait a minute, you got to tell me what this kill your ants thing is. My buddy was out of town for a couple of days, asked me to go feed his cat. And I went up into the loft of his house where the cat hangs out, and there was a bowl of a couple of shreds of food left, and there were a bunch of ants that made their way into the house. And I'm just like, all I had in my head was the horror movie of stomping on all these ants while my buddy was out of the house. But this is the madness portion of the show. So this is where we talk about the stories from the field, and this one I kind of wanted to talk about in your method segment a little bit. But as we were just kind of kicking around in the chat and by text or whatever, like the ants kill you. We kill our ants with pets. And I want you to talk to everybody a little bit about what these acronyms mean. By the way, don't forget to come off mute first. Studies show that we can't hear you when you're on mute. I've done extensive research on this. Okay. I want you to talk a little bit about this idea, we kill our ants with pets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this was actually coined by Dr. Daniel Amen in the 90s, this notion of ants. Ants stand for automatic negative thoughts, right? And so he developed this when he realized he was dealing with, in some very difficult sessions with suicidal patients or teenagers who are in turmoil, or just people who were constantly in conflict, and these negative thoughts were coming up, right? And so what would happen is he said, okay, what he was seeing was folks would have these negative thoughts, and it would almost be the first thought that would come to mind. Yeah. And then that thought would end up taking residence. I'm going to use a quote for you, right? A movie quote, because I know you love them. This will be right up your alley. Yeah, baby. Let's go. Leo in Inception, right? Mm-hmm. Plays Cobb, right? And Cobb says, I think the movie even opens with, an idea once planted in the mind is the most powerful thing because you can't get rid of it. And this is what I tend to find with my clients, my clients who have automatic.
No, dude, I almost consider them patients at this point, but I like where you're style.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but yes, right. And so with my clients,
I have a shirt that says, "Trust me, I'm a doctor." By the way, it's one of my favorite ones.
Very scary if you're going to be performing on anyone, right? But a lot of my clients, and they'll see those negative thoughts will come up. They'll be the first thought. And then, just like an idea, it gets rooted in the mind, and that becomes either the story they tell themselves or the identity. And we're now having to work in reverse, right? Yeah. So automatic negative thoughts are very common. What I tell everyone is, instead of trying to ignore them, identify them. Right. I went through this yesterday with a client, and it was a phenomenal session.
Yeah.
And we went through the wheel of emotions. What are you feeling? What's going on?
Yep.
Being able to label those feelings are super important, because then once you do, then we can bring the pets in. You have to be able to label and acknowledge the automatic negative thoughts that you're experiencing. You have to be able to acknowledge why you're feeling the way you are. And then we bring in the pets, and pets stands for positive, empowering thoughts. So an example might be automatic negative thought is, I'm not good at this job. I'm a complete failure. I'm new at the job. They hired me. They're going to realize that they made a mistake. Okay, that's a common, respectable thought, right? Is that the story you're telling yourself, or is that the truth? Regardless, it is what is rooted in your mind. So then we bring in some positive, empowering thoughts. Well, I was hired. So first of all, they want me here. Second, if you get a promotion, they clearly believe in me. If you go on a field trip with the CEO or the COO, they think enough of me that I should be there, right? And start looking at the past. When I've encountered other challenges, have I overcome them? Positive, empowering thoughts are a direct way for us to kill the ants.
Yep. But I mean, again, the mantra of talkradio.nyc: uplift, educate, and empower. All positivity, right? And it's as simple as the language you use sometimes. I don't know if you've noticed this too, Laurence, and I've been through some of these types of trainings. First of all, I went through a training that was kind of geared towards corporate America, but it was done by an improv comedian. And it's again, having fun, smiling, but most importantly, being able to think on your feet and present a fun version of yourself that creates gravity and animal magnetism, where everybody wants to kind of be around you and hang out and have some of those really positive feelings. And yet there are people who out there still, like, they have some bad juju following them, and they say things in such a way where it's, especially nowadays, that's very off-putting and creates division. Like, that's probably my number one thing, is I'm creating connection everywhere I go. What's the big point of creating division? Like, people trying to feel better about themselves by belittling others, or you have a different viewpoint or a different race or religions. Like, I've never had any room in my life for that, ever.
Well, it's because you're a self-evolved individual who's also self-aware. But it's a great question for me, and this is why in my bio, when I first started, I wrote, "I'm not a speaker. I'm a listener." Yes, I can speak, right? I can speak all day, but to me, the attribute is listen. I think we have too many speakers and not enough listeners, right? Going back to what you talked about with empathy.
Yes.
And I built my whole practice on empathy, right? It is this notion of, can I put myself in someone else's shoes? You talk about division, right? You're here to build connection where others build division. We build division because we're trying to convince others of our point of view, or we're trying to enact our position. We build connection when we just say, I'm willing to understand. The purpose of debate and discourse is not to convince anyone that you're right or they're wrong. It is simply to understand the other person's perspective. And that's where the division comes in. We don't do that. If we were able to do that, we tend to see a complete decrease in conflict.
So that brings me to another point and thought. A lot of times, and this is common, right? People avoid things because they're going to fail. They get passive aggressive because they like to avoid conflict. One of my leaders from a job I had a long time ago, he said there is such a thing as positive conflict. And I've tried to kind of emanate that as much as possible, because once you really kind of evaluate those automatic negative thoughts and you recognize them, you identify them, and you can create some positivity around it, it makes the conflict take on a whole different kind of tone. And there can be some wonderful strides made from some positive conflict. It comes back to another thing of, people are still always looking for perfection, and that doesn't happen. It's incremental steps. It's progress. In the same vein, you had this posted on the site. Pressure is a
Before-
privilege.
Before we get to that, I want to address something you said
Yeah.
there. You said conflict, right? And if you go back to that, I want to ask you a question. When you think
Yep.
about conflict, right? What's the other word that comes with conflict? What
Fight.
is the feeling? What is the feeling rather that comes with conflict?
Fight or flight.
Discomfort.
Discomfort.
Right?
Yeah, no,
It's
yeah.
conflict for most people. Think about it. When you see a couple arguing, right, in public, or you're at a family dinner, right, and you're not, like, you're a guest at a family dinner, you're at the wedding, and you see conflict. What does it make everyone feel? It makes everyone feel uncomfortable. There's a reason for that, of course. But to me, conflict part of that is discomfort.
Yes.
It is okay to be uncomfortable. It is okay.
Yes.
That's
Life
where the
begins
growth
at the end of
happens.
your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
How many people
Absolutely.
you know that stand by that?
Absolutely. Right. So for me, positive conflict is, hey, is this uncomfortable? It is. So how do we process and deal with this level of discomfort, and how do we move to a place where we're both comfortable? Right. That's where the conflict is. That's positive conflict to me.
You know, even going back to the improv comic, right? Like just little tweaks in verbiage, right? I've always been a big George Carlin guy, not because he was funny as hell, which he was, but just because a master wordsmith, language artist, like able to weave words like nobody else. Even just as simple when you're bullshitting with people and talking, saying, like, if you're trying to agree with them and then provide another perspective, if you say yes, but that immediately switches the conversation to a kind of a negative tone. But if you say yes, and it's like a positive, forward-looking type of feeling, people, like, again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, it's how you make people feel, and it's how they engage with you after the conversation, which my company is Engage PEO, so I love saying that. So no pun intended anytime I'm having conversation with people about that. But I mean, this is big stuff, right? Like, this is sometimes, like, again, really helping the soft skills side of things, like helping people to really kind of recognize the humanity instead of making some type of corporate machine of their own brand. It's a big deal, man.
I think it's everything, Stephen, to be honest with you. I really do think it's everything. I think for a long time, we've had this notion that in order to be a successful business or a successful individual or corporation, it needs to be void of empathy. And it needs to be, right? It needs to be very cold and calculated. Again, Kirk and Spock, we need both. We need both. Everything I'm trying to do is to inject empathy, kindness, and just respect into the business.
And with my ADHD, I'm always going to say that I'm everybody because I know how to play all those roles, and I love the idea of identifying who they are and incorporating the best versions of everybody. But hey, that's just me. I'm not able to focus on one of those traits. I like to look at the whole picture and how everything comes together. Before we cut to break here, the idea of pressure is a privilege. This is a big one to me too, because I'm a big believer that life's hardest lessons, like the ones that really test your wits, like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of thing, those are the best types of life lessons, business lessons, whatever they are. They're the ones that really get you to focus and really get you to humble yourself and maybe even be a little vulnerable here and there, which is also where a lot of magic happens. Again, we've talked about this a couple of times here and there throughout this discussion. The whole idea, what if I fail? What if you don't? Like, it's just an equal positive reaction. Like, that's very simple stuff that a lot of times people just completely ignore.
I mean, that's an amazing example of an ant and a pet right there, right?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, that is right there. An ant comes up. What if I fail? I'm going to fail. Okay, positive empowering thought. What if I don't? At least asking that question. And I have to credit Billie Jean King with that quote, "Pressure is a privilege," not mine. But it's a phenomenal quote. It's a phenomenal quote. And ultimately what she is saying and what she said there was, if you feel pressure, it's because there's an opportunity. And I'm going to take that and just add and go further with that, pun intended.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you feel pressure, it's an opportunity to go further. It's an opportunity. That's why the pressure exists.
Way to weave in the company name, baby. I like it. So a couple of things. First of all, I want to explain, because I don't know if I did before. In the world of superheroes, if you guys watch an old episode of Heroes, the old show by Tim Kring that was on the air from 2006 to 2009.
NBC.
Yeah, one that I actually liked back in the day. And then the story went all kinds of haywire and trailed off significantly. But they actually did a good job of explaining what an empath's power is. And really simply put, an empath absorbs the power of other superheroes around them. and somebody who really is kind of in tune with empathy, they understand what's going on with the people around them and are able to see the world through their eyes. That might be the simplest way I could put it. You agree?
No, I'd have to agree, because it means that I'm willing to see how someone else might see it. It doesn't mean, by the way, some people believe that means agreeing. It doesn't mean agreeing.
Doesn't mean agreeing. It just means seeing what they see.
It just means seeing.
Because you can see what they see and still disagree with it and keep a very respectable, positive conversation.
Here's the thing: if we were on a ship and we were looking out into the horizon and we're looking for something, and someone to our left gives us a pair of binoculars and says, "Take a look at this," or "Take a look at what's in front of us. Do you see this?" If we were to immediately to say, "No, I don't want to look through binoculars. Nah, I'm good. I don't want to look at that." Right? That's what a lack of empathy is, right? It is the unwillingness to even just put on the binoculars and be willing to see what is ahead of us. You might be able to say, "You know what? I don't see that." Okay, great. But at least put the binoculars on.
At least put the binoculars on. Speaking of discomfort, I'm sure Logan, the engineer, is getting a little uncomfortable because we're a little bit over for break time. However, I'm starting to feel the need to share Logan's comments on every segment that I do moving forward. If he's got a couple of them, picking out the best one. But Laurence, what he put in the chat was, the thought of Stephen being a doctor gives me an immense discomfort and a large feeling of white coat syndrome.
I'm scared at the notion.
However, my shirt that says, "Trust me, I'm a doctor," is right on. That's totally my style. We got to take a break. We'll be right back with Laurence Anthony, my man, LA. He is the founder of GoFurther Coaching. You guys got to stay with us, people. This guy's magic. Be right back.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Always Friday with me, Stephen Fry, your SMB guy. We are chatting with the one, the only, Laurence Anthony. He is the founder of GoFurther Coaching. I hope you people have been listening the whole time, because this guy's spewing just pure magic here on the air on Always Friday. I'm going to have him back at some point. Laurence, since I told you my brother's name, and you're my brother from another mother, I would consider at this point, what's your brother's name?
I have a brother, Darren, and a sister, Tanya, and we're all very close. The siblings, we're all close. But you know, they give me a lot of flack because I'm the firstborn, so they think that I get.
Oh, me too.
Well, there you go. See, that makes sense. You do have firstborn energy. So here's a funny story. When I walk into the house in Toronto, my mom will play the Lion King theme song because she knows that my grandpa's just like, well, he's back. So I'm Simba and Grandpa's
Nice,
Mufasa.
I love it.
I never hear the end of it.
I love it. It's funny. It's one of my buddies went to go see The Lion King this week. I called him as I kept forgetting that some people had off for Juneteenth. I just my type of stuff is very entrepreneurial and stuff that I do. So I feel like I'm never off, and I'm crazy. I booked a meeting by the Jersey Shore on Wednesday, and I was like, wait a minute. There's a lot of people who might be off. It's like, I'm never getting out of here. I'm stuck in a ridiculous amount of beach traffic. But I did see my brother for Father's Day. We hung out at my parents' house, and good time. He lives northern Jersey, Bergen County, so he's about 60 miles away from me. And that's not really a huge deal to me. I've driven all over creation, but for some reason, I don't get to see him all that often. But I did wear a new shirt to my parents' house just to poke fun at him because it was, I can't help myself.
Of course.
So we took a long time in our segments, and that usually happens when we're having a blast. I hope you've been having a blast, Mr. Anthony. But
absolutely,
this is the message part of the show. When I drew my initial logo way back when with the logo maker, I said from weekend insight to Monday impact. That's what I'm really looking to get people mobilized on here. Again, I hope they've been listening the whole time because you got some gold around you for sure. But if they haven't, the goal with this segment, the message segment, is drop some sound bites on everybody so that they'll remember them on Monday. And again, my kids are leaving on Sunday morning. There's a very high probability there will be champagne bottles popped. It used to be like all tears and everything when they left for camp. The parents have definitely evolved since last year for sure. But after the cocktails and the softball and potential golf, if it cools off outside for the weekend, we want you to drop some sound bites on everybody to really get them thinking and get them engaged come Monday morning, and to give you a call and fill in the contact me stuff on your website, GoFurtherCoaching.com, so that they reach out to you and they engage with you. So let's hear some good messaging, baby. Lay it on us.
You know what? I'm glad you asked this. And it's interesting that our interview is coming right after a call I had with someone I deeply respect. And it was the second time I've had to say this to a client, but I stand by it. And it's funny that you asked this, so I can lead with this because it's very fresh. You're not too old. It's not too late.
Yep, 100%.
You're not too old. It's not too late. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face in our modern time is this notion of, if I have not achieved success by a certain age, I'm a failure. If I'm not where I thought I was going to be, I'm a failure. Or I'm too old. It's too late. It's absurd, right?
Absurd,
and what I do
now.
is, especially now, and the first thing, my first post of the year, my first reel of the year, I said it's day one. It's day one. If you want to start, start today. And I talked about Martha Stewart not starting until she was in her 40s. Sam Jackson didn't get his first breakout role until he was like 43, right? Spike Lee.
Colonel Sanders was 66, I think, when Kentucky Fried Chicken started, or something
there
like that.
You go. There you go, right? And a pillar of the fried chicken community, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
So this notion of it's too late or I'm behind the ball, wrong. So that's important to me. It's not too old. You're not too old. It's not too late. That's a big one, something that I really try and reinforce. You're going to see a reel next week that I'm really happy with, and it's something that's been on my mind for quite some time. And I've coined this term: is it the boat or is it the storm?
Yep.
And the reason I think this is important is because anytime we experience conflict or challenges in our lives, the tendency is to start questioning the boat. Maybe I'm on the wrong path. Maybe there's something wrong with the boat, aka there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm damaged. You know what? I should just throw the boat away. It's the wrong boat. Instead of saying, you know what? There are external factors that are causing me to feel pressure, that are impacting the boat. Maybe the water is choppy, the wind is rough, whatever the case is. Ask yourself, is it the external factors or is it me? Oftentimes it is how we are responding, or our boat is responding to the external factors.
But that's another one that I use all the time in the show, is that even the word respond is more positive than the word react. Like you think of, I had a bad reaction to this food. I had a bad reaction to this medicines. Like, it's like responsiveness kind of indicates that there's an engineered tailored solution to an issue that kind of keeps everything in that positive light. And that kind of brings me to where I want to kind of wrap this up with. I was talking about, improv comedy before, and that being a good way to train people and help them think on their feet. I saw this picture of you. It almost like it might have been a speaking engagement, which, by the way, Laurence Anthony is open for. GoFurtherCoaching.com. Look on his Instagram. He's open for coaching on coaching and speaking on various topics. But this almost looked like you were doing a set in a nightclub of stand-up comedy. And it looked a little dark, but I wanted to show everyone the picture because one of the comments on your site, one of the quotes says, "Don't dim your light." And to me, this kind of goes right along with, don't create division, like create connection. If somebody's light is shining and it might even be dimming a little bit, don't shut it off. Don't cut them off. Like, pump them up, empower them, brighten the light. It only stands to really help you and other people around you, no matter what.
I'm so glad you said that. And the word you used there was empower. And I'm going to give you another nerd reference. I've given you some Trekkies here. Let's go to
Love
the
nerd
comments.
references.
There we go. Let's go to one of the GOAT quotes in the nerd world. With great power comes greater responsibility, right?
Yep.
And Uncle Ben, right?
And actually before that, Teen Wolf. You go back and watch it from 1985. Teen Wolf, Harold Howard said that to Scott Howard.
Teen Wolf was after Spider-Man. Have you lost your mind?
Well, after the original Spider-Man was 2002.
No, Amazing Fantasy number 50.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's what I thought you were. I thought you were talking about Uncle Ben from Spider-Man 2002.
I'm a
1980s. I'm a 1980 boy, so I like to really pay some respect to the 80s.
Well, I mean, shout out Michael J. Fox, Teen Wolf. Come on, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about?
One of the best. But this notion of you said empower, Stephen. I believe it's this. And I get really serious and I get really emotional when I say this. I think we're in this weird place. You said division. I think we're in a weird place now where we have a lot of powerful individuals who have a misguided sense of what power and masculinity is. For me, I believe if you're powerful, we should use that to empower others. We should not
100%.
use that to sow division or to dominate. Strong, secure individuals, men and women, no, you know what? This room is going to be better when everyone else feels empowered to be here.
We will save that conversation for another day because that's the kind of genesis of leadership versus management. But yeah, stay with us for the next episode with me and Laurence Anthony. We got to wrap up here in just a moment, LA. So I want to share your answers with everybody. Your favorite movie character is George Bailey from It's a Wonderful Life. I actually wasn't expecting that from you, but as soon as you said, got into the black and white movies with the family and everything, and I'll give you one color shot just for fun there. It's that goes way back, baby. And one of your other answers is nice black and white film as well. But you also gave me a favorite TV show character. And although I haven't gotten into Mad Men heavily, I do love the character of Don Draper. One of my favorite memes to send out for people's birthdays is him drinking a glass of scotch. Says, "Happy birthday." I was going to drink anyway. But that's just, kind of my sense of humor. So your favorite movie is Casablanca. So can't get more classic than that. I remember you saying about your watching the black and white movies with your mom and the family. I just thought you had a crush on Ingrid Bergman. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
It's pretty hot.
Ted Lasso is probably the most popular answer I get from people in the coaching field. So it's hard to find an answer that's more relevant these days and more mirrors what you do. And there's a lot of leadership lessons that Ted Lasso teaches, and I always like the be a goldfish one, and I like it even more for you because I got this picture of you off your Instagram. It's like, dude, he's just staring at the fish.
Staring at the fish in Osaka, Japan.
How much better could you possibly get? I mean,
He's so
Osaka,
moody.
Japan, I keep thinking about eating fucking raw fish. But yeah, this definitely looks like be a goldfish watching the leadership lesson. And last, but definitely not least, I'm a saxophone player, so I love this answer. You said you'd love to hear the saxophone played by John Coltrane. And that's a great answer and an even more beautiful picture. Laurence, pleasure to meet you as of late. I love it when the initial conversation I have with somebody is so powerful where I'm like, dude, I have to interview you as soon as possible. Just get on the schedule.
Well, no, thank you for the invite. I will be happy to come back anytime. Thank you for having me.
Well, looking forward to that. Shout out to Uncle Mike and Uncle Mike's Home Service again. Again, if your HVAC system is on the fritz and you're sweating profusely, call Uncle Mike. He's over there to help you. Coming up next week, you're going to see a huge smile on my face because my kids will have been at camp for a couple days. Again, good for mom, good for dad, good for kids. So very excited for them to have the experience, excited for me to have a little bit of freedom to celebrate. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the show. We hope you got some weekend insight to make a Monday impact. We will see you next Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc. Bye-bye, everybody.